Okay, for the next step of this project, we are going to need some 2-inch XPS foam insulation. Now these are just some scrap pieces that I had laying around. You're probably gonna have to buy a 4x8 sheet if you find 2 inches or whatever else. Maybe you'll just want to stack a couple pieces together until you get the right height. Whatever you want to do, but this is what I had laying around, so this is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to put the bigger piece on top of the smaller piece. And that's how I'll do that. Now, what I'm going to use is my Woodland Scenics hot wire foam wire cutter here. And this is a nice little tool for the wand here. So I got it all plugged in, and I'm just going to take this and just edge out some pieces. Now, the foam, of course, is wider than the wand, so I'm gonna have to play around with this until I get it the way I want. So this can take a bit of time, but you just do some random design until you find what you like. I'll put a link for the Wood Scenic wire cutter on there somewhere on the page. But that's it, guys. I'm just gonna make it look all nice and neat, pretty. And I'll come right back to you guys. Or you guys can watch me do this for a little while. So that's it. I just take the wand and I just kind of move it back and forth and try to get some different designs, chip some pieces out. You know, I could go this way, I could go, you know, just different designs. Just go with whatever feels right, whatever looks right to you. And I know, like I said, I know I can't get it all in there, so I kind of just got to work at it and just see where the two pieces go. Okay guys, now I'm done with my first block. I kind of like it. I might make some changes to it, but now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on this block and see what it's going to look like with the other block. Then start carving this block. Then put them back together and see where I might need to make some kind of modifications or changes. So like I said, you really can't mess it up as long as you don't get too deep into it and everything else. It'll work out just fine. So now just go ahead, guys, and do the same thing to this one over and over again. You know, and just keep picking at it. That's it, and then eventually you'll get something you like, and hopefully you'll be happy with it. And that's it, and just keep doing all four sides, match them up, and then make any modifications. And then I'll be right back with you guys, and I'll show you what it looks like together. Okay guys, now I have it together, and I'm just gonna go ahead and just make a couple modifications. So they kind of look like they blend in with each other. And then I'll be all done with this, and then I'll glue it together. And then we can move on to the next step. Yeah, so your next step after making that is to clean up the mess that you made from using that Woodland Scenics wire cutter. Where's that boy? Atreus! Where are you, boy? Damn kids. Okay, so now that this is all dry and it's ready to go, I cut out a small piece of cardstock, and I'm going to place it probably right about there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some planks out of some very thin, like these are 1/16, 1/8 pieces of scrap that I had. Usually I use these to make shingles or whatever else on roofs or whatever else. But we're going to use these and make some pieces about the same size as this cardstock here, and we're just going to make a couple boards on this. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started now. I'm going to make these just a little bit bigger than the cardstock itself right now. just enough to cover this up so you can't hardly see it. And now I'm going to cut those down into thinner pieces so they're like dock boards. And that's it. And then we'll take our wire brush, where I don't know where it's at, and we will put some wood grain texture in that. Okay, so all I'm doing now is taking these pieces and I'm just putting some texture in it to give it some wood grain type texture with a wire brush. You also can use your little knife or a little knife or whatever else and just put some wiggly lines in it or whatever else if you want. This is so delicate and thin, I can't put too much pressure on it or it'll ruin these. So I'm just going to do that. So when I paint them up, it will look like wood grain. It'll look like old deck boards. Okay, so now that I got my boards done and everything else, what I want to do is I actually want to put this inside the foam just a bit. I want to kind of hide this, but I'm doing this, I made this so the boards would be a little more stable and they'd have something to lay on, because like I said, this is going to be over the edge a bit. So basically I'm going to set it up like this, and then I'm just going to carve out a bit here, just tracing this out. And I'm just going to go down a little bit on it, cutting this a little deeper. And then I'm going to try to just cut it out with my knife. Try not to make any mistakes, which I see I'm doing already, but nothing I can't cover up. I think the tip of my knife is telling me it's a little on the dull side. No big deal. This is all going to be hidden, so it's no big deal. That's one thing that's good about crafts. As long as you don't make a big gouge in it or whatever else, you can usually cover it up one way or another. So I want it so that cardstock will just sit in there pretty much flush like it's doing right now. And then I'll glue that into there. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm just using the Eileen's Tacky Glue because in my opinion, I think it's probably the best glue out there. It dries fast and it's really strong. Okay, of course, I say it dries fast as I'm putting this back together because it's underneath here, there's still a lot of glue and it's not quite dry. So one of those things I will definitely have to be paying attention to. Okay, now I will use the Eileen's Tacky Glue to glue these 4 pieces on. And you don't need a lot of glue, just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That looks pretty good. Now if you want, you can just glue this all together, or you didn't have to glue this part to it right away. You could have actually waited, just cut out how you want it to sit in there, glue this board, these planks to the board, paint them separate, and then when you're ready to assemble it, go ahead and assemble it. But I decided not to do that. See, now that we got that all done, that's all set and ready to go. We just let it dry out, and then we can get to the next part. which is putting down the sand and the stones. So as you're waiting for the boards here to dry and everything else, we're going to go ahead and put some stones on here and some sand. So I'm just going to put some tacky glue in a whole bunch of spots, kind of where I want a lot of the bigger stones that I'm going to put on here to be. So over the years, I have collected just a lot of rocks out of the yard and on the side of the road and stuff like that. I've actually went through and filtered them out to different sizes or whatever else. So I'm going to use these stones that are kind of like a really small stone in a way. They're not too big. I didn't want anything like gigantic for this at all. I thought just some decent sized stones will do the job for now. And they kind of vary a little bit, but they're all pretty close to the same size the stones are. So I'm just going to put a whole bunch of these on. And then just shake off what's coming off loose and just put them back in my tote, or back in my little container I have. And then now I'll put a whole bunch more glue on there, and then I'll do the sand. I mean, yeah, I could have put all the glue on there at once, but I didn't quite want to do that. So now I'll just put a whole bunch more glue in here, and what I'll have to do is I will have to spread out this glue evenly as much as I can, and then I will go and put the sand on. So I'm just going to put this all over the place, and then I will get a wet brush or something and just spread this along. So now that I got that glue on there, I got to spread it out. And what I'd use is normally one of these fine like horse hair brushes. They're like really flimsy, but I have no use really for them. So I usually use them for spreading the glue around because they seem to work pretty good for that, and that's about it. And sometimes they don't even work good for that. But I don't want to waste one of my good brushes spreading all this glue around. So I'll just use one of these. And when spreading this, I probably will move or lose some of these big rocks. No big deal. I can just put some more on there if need be. And if they end up in random places, that's fine with me too. As long as they don't look awkward. And I try not to use a lot of water in my brush either, because you're just going to thin out your glue. So this part is going to get messy. So if you want to put something underneath it so you can catch it all, go ahead. But whatever I lose, I lose. It's really no big deal to me. I got plenty of sand, and if I need more, I know where to get it. But just to be the nice guy for now, so I'm not making too much of a mess in the garage, I'll put a board underneath it. And then I'm just going to spread this sand that I got from probably Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Just spread it on there. And you're probably just going to get this stuff everywhere, so don't worry too much about it. And so what I'm going to do is just let this sit for a few hours or a while or whatever else, and then I'll come back to it later. Okay, the sand and the rocks have all dried now. Now, before I let the glue completely dry, I realized I still needed a spot here for the chain and the kind of like the anchor thing that's supposed to go here. So I cleared that off real quick because I totally forgot I was supposed to leave that alone. We are going to do one little piece right here, and we'll get to that in a bit. But what I should have done is I probably should have put the sand down first and then came along and put the bigger rocks in, because after I spread the glue, a lot of the little tiny sand got on the rocks, and it kind of makes it, it doesn't really go with it. It doesn't look right. You know, you got these tiny sand bits all over the tiny rocks. But maybe when I paint it, it will come out better, but we'll see what happens. For now, that is all done. I am going to actually, now that I got this all done, I will clip the, when I'm all done painting this, I will clip the toothpick off so it's flush with the edges there, and I'll get that all painted up. Pull the chain off, or take the chain off, so when I'm painting it, it won't get on the chain, because I want to leave the chain this length. So for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those big links from the other chain that I have here, and we're going to take one of those links off. Hopefully I can still do this by hand. Okay. And I will spread this out. Okay. And then I'll take my little, hopefully the part on these needle nose pliers, I can cut a little bit of this off. Because like I said, it's just, I don't know if it's supposed to be some kind of metal. I think it's almost like a plastic. And what I want to do is I want to stick this piece on the first plank there, and I'm going to glue that in place with the tacky glue. And then when I let that dry, I will put this here and wrap the chain around it like it has in the God of War game. And I'll wrap that around like that, and then I'll dangle the chain through this loop and down to here, and then cut the length, and then that will be set. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the finished chain ladder from God of War. What do you guys think? Looks pretty sweet, huh? So there it is, guys, the God of War chain ladder. It took me a little while to get this done because of Memorial Day weekend. You know, I had to go out and do some fishing, relax and everything else, but it is finally done. I want to make a whole bunch of more God of War things. I would love to hear from you guys. Comment. Let me know what else from God of War you would like me to try to make. It doesn't even have to be this God of War game. It could be from any of the other God of War games. It could be the ones from the PSP. It could be from the PS2 and 3. You know, let me know, guys, and I'll see what I can do. I definitely want to make some more stuff. There are a couple more things I am planning to make from God of War. So I hope you guys liked it, and like always, ring that like button like a hunchback. Until next time, boy.